I also want to mention something at the start of tonight's show that is beyond heartbreaking, and another example about the heartlessness of where people decide to rule lines and not rule lines. The story comes from South Australia, the Women and Children's Hospital in Adelaide. Now, this thing is being rebuilt at some point in time, but currently, if you have a baby that is born in this hospital in Adelaide and it has a problem with their heart, they can't do anything for you. They don't have a cardiac unit for little babies in South Australia at this hospital in Adelaide. So you have to get sent to Sydney or you have to get sent to Melbourne. Well, as a result of not being able to send babies to Melbourne because of the coronavirus second wave caused by the Victorian government and their attitude to hotel quarantine, and the heart unit for babies in Sydney being harder to get into than it normally would be, again because of the demand from COVID, not one, but apparently 4 babies have died in the past month. 4 babies have died in the past month because the Women and Children's Hospital in Adelaide does not have a cardiac unit. This is something that in a first-class country like Australia, that the leading Women and Children's Hospital in a major state does not have this facility is outrageous. The previous Labor government spent more than $1 billion to build a hospital in the middle of Adelaide. We hear all day, every day, about state and federal budgets where more money for this and more money for that. Or put simply, where is the money for a vital service where a kid on their first day needs help? Help that will mean that they will get a second day, that they will get a week, a month, their first year. Because of the failures in Victoria, 4 babies have died because they could not be transported to Melbourne. 4 babies have died because the pressure on the system in Sydney meant those babies were not transported. This was a point which was made by a professor today to a parliamentary hearing in Adelaide. When you hear this, think about the failure of the South Australian government to provide this facility, and then think about the incompetence of the Victorian government that led to them not being able to use a facility that would have saved these children's lives.
Respectfully, I shall leave it to you to imagine the profound effect of these deaths on the parents, their families, and the dedicated medical and nursing staff dealing with these tragedies.
Now, we all owe the same care and compassion that we do to save lives in the COVID crisis for lives that have only just begun. The future Australians, the ones who, of course, are born into the greatest country of all, and one that is rich enough, is well-resourced enough to have a facility like this in every city around the country. We should have a competence in government that when a baby needs to travel across a border, it can to save its life. But as we have seen, even when a baby is able to cross a border, like they did from northern New South Wales into Queensland, the rules of politics kick in, which mean the parents can't come with the baby because, of course, they might be a COVID risk. Well, the baby itself was not able to get into Victoria, again, because the Victorian government made decisions to put private security guards, not police, not the army, on guard in hotel quarantine. These 4 deaths in part should be seriously thought about being added to the other tolls that we have taken in and around coronavirus. One more time from the professor today in Adelaide.
The Women's and Children's Hospital Alliance would humbly ask, how many more deaths of babies and young children will the community and the staff be forced to endure?
Now, really? Are we proud of ourselves as a country? That this is what happens? The Premier in South Australia, Premier Marshmallow, he's out there spending extra money on a COVID rapid response centre. Well, pull your finger out of your arse, mate, and spend some money on a cardiac unit for babies. And Premier Daniel Andrews, when you have an attitude that when you are having bugger all cases every day, but you want to keep everyone locked down, so you look like the big strong man, the result of that decision-making means people are not able to access services that can save lives of kids. We are past the point of no return here of stupidity. This is the sort of thing that should and must be a circuit breaker. But alas, we have some of the dumbest people and the most craven politicians sitting in the most powerful positions at the state level around the country. But watch not a single person ask a question about this to the Premier of South Australia or the Premier of Victoria. And of course, the Queensland Premier. Well, she won't get asked any questions.